This sode would not be possible without the support of our listeners, patrons, and sponsors. If you'd like to learn more about supporting the 3-Bit Gamer Show, check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/3BG. And a huge thanks goes out to our boss-level patrons, Christopher and Patrick. So, JD, how are you doing today?
Oh, man. It's just miserable every day. Same old crap. I'm so tired of being in lockdown all the time.
Yeah, I am seriously so ready to get back in the studio and record in a couple months.
Yeah, I mean, it's just 6 months. I think we can do it.
It's going to be the longest 10 months of our lives, but we got this.
Exactly. And in 18 months, we'll be so grateful that it's over.
We're never going back, are we?
Nope. You've just locked into the 3-Bit Gamer Show. Welcome to the 3-Bummer Gamer Show. I'm JD.
This is Peterson. And guess what?
And here's your bad feelings.
It's just us. Whenever it's just a JD and Peterson episode, you never know what you're going to get. We just do whatever we want. No one holding us back.
That was the best part, is when I was like, I wanted to plan this episode and I wanted it to work and I didn't want to fight anyone. I was like, Peterson, let's just do the two of us. No, we don't have anyone to push back on our ideas. Live from the 3-Bit Gamer Show. The news. All right, our news this week is brought to us by two crackdiculous cookies. Crave Cookies is this awesome cookie shop here in Midvale, Utah. You can check them out on cravecookies.com. They have a drive-thru. They deliver with DoorDash. And this week, Peterson,
What do they have?
Dude, it's the best. So they've got a pumpkin spice cheesecake cookie. It's a pumpkin dough base with cinnamon and nutmeg and sweet cheesecake filling. And they roll the whole cookie in cinnamon and sugar and then put a little icing on top.
Nope,
You have to see this. Guys, even if you don't live in Utah, just hop on and look at this cookie porn on cravecookies.com. It's absurd because you scroll down a little bit farther and you get the caramel apple pie. Are you serious, Trent?
That's what I'm in for.
Apple pie and oatmeal wrapped around a soft Werther's caramel, rolled in cinnamon sugar and baked and topped with a cream caramel icing and brown sugar streusel. If you don't have audio diabetes by now, you should.
Trent giving us those fall flavors that I am in for. I don't like pumpkin stuff, but I love pumpkin cookies. You know what I mean? For some reason, it just works.
Ones,
yep.
Oh, I love them just soft, and the fact that he's taken that, rolled it in cinnamon sugar, and stuffed it with cheesecake. Trent, you are committing crimes. But it's okay. I won't report you. So check out cravecookies.com. Let's jump into some news. Peterson, do this one. Just do it. I'll break my I told you so meter.
Dude, this killed me. So Xbox, let's see. Xbox Series X went on sale.
Yeah, you had to check. You just had to check.
Yeah, I did. And I have to every single time. They went on sale.
That's insane.
And immediately, and a lot of people saw this story, but immediately sales for the Xbox One X soared on Amazon for no reason, right? It's been there the whole time.
I can think of a reason.
Look, this is an honest mistake anyone could make. If you are not paying attention, if you are not like deep into the video game world, you will make this mistake. Mom, I want an Xbox Series X. She goes on, does an Amazon search for Xbox. She sees Xbox One X. That's the one. That's what he said. He said Xbox X, right? That's what it is. That's it. You buy it. Dude, and sales soared. I've even seen a couple things of people like opening their box and being like, "Oh, dude, it got here. Like I got it, and it's the Xbox One X, dude." I'm telling you, this is a mistake that we are going to have always.
Dude, the boxes look identical too. They're both like a black Xbox on a black box for both of them. They're indistinguishable. It's not even like, oh, I could guess because the Xbox 360, for example, had a white box with like a green thing on it or whatever. But in this, it's like even the boxes are fucking identical.
A black Xbox with a black controller leaning against it. Dude, yes, you're right. Are they trolling us? What is going on?
I think they are, dude. I think, I don't know, man. It's just
I feel
so
like
weird.
We're getting trolled.
What's funny is I think I've gotten so far away from this and I've climbed so far up my own ass on this subject that I've forgotten what was the original source of this. Was that Microsoft didn't want to release the Xbox 2 and have people think that it was somehow less than the PlayStation 3 that it was sharing a generation with. So they had to make it the Xbox 3 something else. And they just went with 360. And that was where they just took the train completely off the rails. And it's been never within the same like country as the rails ever since.
The train,
and it was all because they thought people
anywhere
were
near the track.
That's how dumb Xbox fucking thinks everyone is. That is how little they think of our capacity as consumers,
dude.
To think critically that we are just basing it on the number.
I feel like they're just every time they make a new one, they're like, okay, stop. We got to reset. Okay. And they just reset their naming convention every time. And to where it makes no sense to anyone else, right? Because I can see them being like, okay, the Xbox, okay, well, we don't want to be the Xbox 2 because that'll sound less than the PlayStation 3. So, you know what? 360. We're going all the way around, right? 360 degrees. We're going all the way around. 360. And people are like, what? I don't get it. And then they're like, scratch that. You know what? That was a dumb name. Let's just go back to the roots. This is the Xbox One. And you're like, why? I don't understand. This is your third one.
Why?
No. We're starting over. And then someone tried to get clever, and they were like, well, let's do like the upgraded version, the Xbox One X, because then it spells XBOX. It spells Xbox back at square one. Let's just start over again. And they're like, all right. Then they come back and they're like, okay, we got to name this new one something. We can't name it the Xbox 2X or the Xbox One XI. Like, what are we going to call this? You know what? Scratch that. Let's go back. Let's start doing series. Then you cannot confuse it. How should we start? Series X, obviously, because it's the Xbox. Sounds cool. There's an X on our logo. The Xbox Series X. Every time. This is what they're doing. I'm telling you, they're resetting every time.
I think we're looking past perhaps the most obvious explanation is that, you know, when you go and you look at like TVs or Blu-ray players on Amazon, and they're all just like in a random jumble of like 35 different numbers and letters
mixed in with words.
Look, man, the same guys that are responsible for naming those TVs were responsible for naming the Xbox. One day, the marketing team came in their door and was like, "Hey, what are you guys going to call this?" They're like, "Bitch, you're lucky this is less than 35 random numbers and letters. You'll be lucky if you get the Xbox 2 out of us, but you won't. You'll get the Xbox Series X, and you'll take it, and you'll like it."
They're like,
because if not, the next one will be the Xbox F2, capital E, lowercase d, J4, 25.3.
Comma, 1 TB, comma, 460 teraflops, T-flops, comma, like that's how they name all this other stuff.
Like, fine, we'll just go with the Series X.
Yeah.
I can't. Well, hey, here's another one. This is a cool name. Apparently Amazon is now jumping into the cloud gaming space.
Smart.
With
Amazon, they know what they're doing.
Luna. Yeah. Well, so here's the thing. Amazon has next to no fucking idea what they're doing in the video game industry. However, their cloud like business is yeah, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but AWS is their cloud business, Amazon Web Services, and it's their biggest source of profit. They make more off their cloud computing by a substantial margin than they do off of Amazon.com. And all of that infrastructure and every single thing that Amazon does, still they're making more off their server farms, selling space to, any company that needs server space. So unlike Google, who didn't know anything about games and is a middling competitor in cloud services, they have endless capacity for cloud gaming at Amazon. They really do. But my ultimate analysis on what we know about this, which is very little, and I'll let Peterson, you fill us in on that. But this just feels like something that's really not going to compete well against Game Pass. But Peterson, you fill us in. I'm getting ahead of myself. How Amazon Luna works?
Yeah. So to your last point, Amazon is competing now with Microsoft, right? Who Microsoft has been doing video games for a long time. And so Amazon is jumping into this. And, I feel like they stumbled into Twitch success. Well, they bought it, right? And they don't know what to do with it. I mean, we know they tried to release a game and they're making another one. The game they released was horrible. And the one they're trying to make is, what's it called? New World. It's such a stupid name. So yeah, their foray into gaming has been less than exciting. So they've come out and said, what we can do though, we can do a streaming service called Luna, which is actually a great name. Great name. They've got a good looking logo. Everything on it looks fantastic. But I think what they're trying to do different, and I don't know if I'm on board with this, is they're doing it almost like you would get like a cable package. So when you signed up for cable, you'd say, okay, I want a basic package, or I want plus with ESPN Plus, or with you'd kind of do all your upgrades. So what they're doing is you have the Luna service, and you subscribe to channels that each have their own cost. So, for example, the first one when they're in their early access stage, there's only one channel. It's called Luna Plus. It's $5.99 a month. So, I mean, really not a big commitment to try out, right? If they've got a handful of good games, it's worth jumping in and out if there's something you want to play. But one of the channels they've announced that's coming soon is the Ubisoft channel. So I'm assuming, I don't know much about that, but I'm assuming that'll have just a library, if not all of the library of Ubisoft games for a monthly cost. So Ubisoft channel, all the Ubisoft games, $8 a month or something. And I think a good point. Oh, go ahead.
Is this supposed to work like Stadia in that it's streaming their computing, whatever processes are handled on Amazon's end, and you can just play it on anything? Is that the idea?
Yeah, PC, Mac. This is PC, Mac, okay. Fire TV, and the big distinction is that it'll also be on the iPhone and the iPad.
Right.
Which is right, cool. That's great. I believe they would be able to set up the infrastructure to stream. They're not overpromising. They said 1080p, right? Which is probably smart.
Yeah.
They didn't come out screaming like Google.
They'll be lucky if they get
4K
1080p.
right away. No problem. We've tested it. You are going to get flawless 4K, and no one got that.
Yeah, that's Google style.
Yep. So I don't know. I'm not. If I'm being totally honest, I'm not interested in it right now. It's something I'll watch, but it's not something I'm excited about because now there's too many streaming services for gaming, right?
Well, and I think what Google revealed clumsily with Stadia, and definitely not on purpose, was that there's no market for this. There's realistically no market for the theoretical gamer that wants to play high-end HD games but has no access to any computer or anything, just has a controller and wants to drop $6 to $30 a month and play them all on, I don't know, a laptop?
On whatever. Yeah, their laptop.
No, that is
their
not a
iPad.
real consumer. That's not a real person. I'm sorry. It just doesn't exist. And I think the things that Microsoft is offering, like $35 a month, gets you a brand new, super high-end Xbox and just a vast library of awesome games that you realistically couldn't play in a year. Or you can do a single channel on Amazon for $6 a month. I don't know, man. I just don't see.
I think there is a market, and I don't think it's big enough to support the cost of these. That's what I think. And I think we're going to see this big war of trying to tap into that market. Mm-hmm. And right now, I feel like Microsoft's going to win that because we've got Stadia, xCloud. Microsoft has xCloud. We've got Luna now. We've got and don't forget about GeForce Now. Right, so all of a sudden, everyone's paying game companies to just put their games on their service. So maybe it's not a bad thing to be a indie game company right now, and people are approaching you just needing stuff for their service, and you're like, "Cool, who's the highest bidder?"
Any game company right now is just so happy right now with all the game platforms, these digital marketplaces that are just pouring money into studios. Yeah. I think about Watch Dogs 2, which I'll be talking about later in the SOD, but I played Watch Dogs 2 because I picked it up on Epic, on EGS's, so Epic's game store. I picked it up for free, and so it came out in 2016. I'm picking it up 4 years later for free, and now I am, after having played it for a while, vastly more interested in Watch Dogs Legacy. And there's a good chance I'll be picking that game up new and paying them, $60. And so it was an awesome investment and a really good idea from Ubisoft to take the money from Epic to put that game on the platform for free, because Epic just shoveled a bunch of money into their pockets. I don't know if they do it on a buy sale or buy download basis, but honestly, I won't buy Watch Dogs Legacy on Epic. Like, no one's realistically going to do that. So what they've done is just given Uplay a fuck ton of money, and then a lot of like future customers for nothing other than trying to habit form me to open EGS every day, which is kind of working. So yeah, I think game studios are stoked on this. But I think the problem is with the Amazon Luna is that there's a startup cost, and it's their controller. So they have, I don't know why no one learned with the Ouya way back when, stop making, or the Steam machines. Remember all the Steam controllers? Yep. Yeah. Stop making new controllers. No one fucking wants them.
I don't want to buy another
blows my mind. I don't need 60 new controllers that are just going to collect dust because no one's going to use it. So here's what I would have done if I were Amazon, and I understand the game industry. I would partner with Microsoft, and I'd partner with Sony to make an Amazon branded subsidized controller. So you can get a new Xbox controller that would be like compatible. It would be fine with all your PC games that you'd play. But instead of it being $50-$60, it has a big Amazon Luna logo on it. It's the exact same functional controller, but it's $35. And it comes, you have to like sign up for their fucking service with it. That's what I would have taken. Because now if I cancel after the first month, dang, I got a freaking cool controller for $40. Yep. And now you've eliminated the biggest buy-in, which is the new stupid effing controller.
Yeah, I don't want it. I don't want to buy another controller. I don't.
It's so weird.
And it doesn't look, so I'm looking at it. It looks cool. Right, the controller actually looks kind of cool itself, but also it doesn't look as nice to hold as the Xbox controllers or a PlayStation controller. It just looks like the shaping isn't quite there. Same with the Stadia controller. It doesn't look like the shaping is necessarily there. It's like the same general shape if you blur your eyes. But
this is like the controller that comes with the games in a hotel. in
yes.
the 90s, and you're like, it's kind of a Nintendo Super Nintendo controller, and it's kind of a Sega Genesis controller, but it's not really either of them.
But it's not those. And those companies, Sony and Microsoft, have decades of experience making a controller that people love.
And Amazon loves doing this, slapping their logos on other people's products and saying, and other people like it because then they boost them in their sales rankings. Yeah. So it could have been a win for everyone, and it could have been an olive branch. But I guarantee you, I guess Microsoft probably wouldn't wanted anything to do with it. But I just don't see this even being in the same competitive line as Game Pass. It just
no, and
it's going to be offering fewer games and fewer opportunities and options for more money than Game Pass. What is your thought process on that?
And you brought up a great point last night. So Luna goes in and they're like, "Hey, we've added a few new channels. We've added the Ubisoft channel." So say people go in and subscribe to the Ubisoft channel, and that's easy money, right? What's to stop Ubisoft from saying, "Wait, you're making a ton of money just putting our games on your channel. It's not Luna that people are obsessed with. Like, people don't care, right? There's not going to be like major Luna fans. So what's to stop Ubisoft from just trying to do it themselves, right? And what's to stop them from doing themselves, or Ubisoft to start a bidding war between Amazon and Google? And you know what I mean?
And so you're telling me what Amazon is going to be is the trash bin of AAA studios that aren't big enough to make their own digital platforms for their own games, but they're not like so small that they will go to, Microsoft and get on Game Pass or something else. They have their pride. So it's just going to be like a dumpster fire of like low tier AAA games,
like 2013 or earlier.
Yeah, that's awful. Okay, let's do one more AAA thing, and then we'll do these two indies, and we'll be done. So an awesome Blursty nomination. We love calling these out when we get them. We've got a Blursty nomination, or a Blursty nod, I suppose, because we haven't done the official nominations yet.
It was the best of times. It was the blurst of times. You stupid monkey.
A Blursty nod for worst name 2020 goes to Blizzconline. Now, come on, you guys. You guys know we appreciate a good pun. We appreciate a good eye roller, a good mashup. This is none of those things. This is bad. BlizzConline is bad. Because Peterson said it 3 times last night, and I got like down his throat because I was like, do you have a speech impediment? Why do you keep saying it wrong? It's BlizzCon Online. And he's like, brother, I'm sorry, it's not. Yeah. I was so upset.
I get it. I get what they're doing. I understand. Like I said, we love a good mashup. And theoretically, this is a good mashup, but it sounds so bad. It just doesn't flow right.
It's got a bad mouth feel. It's like a mealy apple. That's what this BlizzConline is, a fucking mealy apple in my mouth.
It's a mealy apple. That's perfect. I immediately knew exactly what you're talking about.
Get it out. And but it's too late. It was already in your mouth. There's no going back. So,
I don't want to hear people say BlizzConline. I don't want to see it
think
written.
About it.
Just say BlizzCon Online.
Just say BlizzCon Online. The AP style guide still says BlizzCon Online, so we're going to go with that. One final note on BlizzConline. Jesus. Is that I'm sure that a lot of Blizzard devs were really stoked that this was delayed from. So it was canceled. BlizzCon Live, like the in-person BlizzCon, was canceled in May. It typically goes on in November, so people thought maybe they'd be doing an online BlizzCon in November. So this announcement is that they're delaying it till mid-February. So I'm sure a ton of Blizzard devs are really stoked about the extra 3 months of crunch they just got added to their schedule with the holidays right in the middle of it. So don't worry, Blizzard devs, the 5 of you that are left. We're thinking about you in the holidays where you're working 20-hour days and you don't get to go home to see your family because you don't have time. You got to grind out those. You got to grind out those like subpar game demos for the overlords at Activision, and I guess that's your life, and that sounds so sad.
Hopefully, it's a springboard into something better.
Well, I did just see one of our old PR guys at Blizzard is now PR at Amazon Luna, so I don't know. Maybe it's something better. Maybe it's something marginally new. Worse. Maybe but it's always going to be something new. You know what, Peterson? I love that attitude. Might be better, it might be worse, but hey, at least it's something new.
There you go.
Okay, we've got some. Okay, so Among Us 2, another game. Maybe Peterson will talk about later. This is the hot new mess among the kids, I guess.
Among everyone,
Among Us,
streaming, it's just a big thing right now.
It's huge. So Among Us, they were talking about, this is an indie game, I believe, correct? And they were talking about working on a second one, Among Us 2, and they realized that because of the response from the community, that it was a
sudden
better decision.
Response. This game's been out for a few years. Among Us has.
Yes. Yeah, so they were like, okay, well, we've been working on it for a while now, and now that it's hugely popular, we thought we'd take that momentum and build a second one. And everyone's like, no, blah, blah, blah. We want, this is what we like. And so the developers made the difficult decision to take all the features and all the plans they had for Among Us 2, cancel them, and put them in Among Us 1, which is crazy because originally, apparently their reasoning for doing a sequel was because the code base or the foundation the game was built on is so like shitty and janky, and it was just kind of like hacked together. It's like redneck engineering for the foundation of a home. And then like you start building other things on top of it, and you're like, guys, we have to fix the foundation. But you're like, well, yeah, but then we have to pull up all the floor. And it's like, well, then let's build a new house. And apparently everyone liked living in that shitty frat house that burned down twice. So we're going to stay in the same frat house.
But listen, we just put a new kitchen in. We like the kitchen, okay?
Dude, you think we're going to be able to put a stripper pole in a new house? No. The stripper pole stays. We're here. Yeah. Bros for life. I don't know. At least they won't. I don't know. I think with this, the success is so fleeting and can be very fleeting. And I think,
and it will be,
that at least sticking with this, they won't die or over extend their studio or over leverage their studio on what might end up being a game with waning popularity. And they might start work on a sequel and find no one fucking wants it or even remembers what the game is. So ultimately, the coolest thing about this is that it's showing what is so cool about indie developers is that they are very in tuned and very communicative with their community and players. And even to their own peril. The fact that these guys looked down the barrel and were like, ugh, this is going to be way more awful, but this is what the fans want. So
let's do it.
Let's go fix that. Let's go fix that.
Plus,
code base.
They're making us this sudden like influx of millions and millions of dollars. So I guess they'll just let's go fix it. Go fix it, guys.
Yeah. So good for you guys. And then this last one, just kind of a mini one because I know Peterson loves this game. But Baba Is You was awarded the Game Designers Award at the Japan Game Show, which is
so good.
A pretty cool award for what was a pretty small indie title.
Baba Is You deserves awesome. all the awards it could get their hands on. It's not going to win anything for like best graphics or anything like that because it looks like my 6-year-old hand drew it. Like it doesn't look good. None of it looks appealing. But the fact that it won the Game Designer Award just shows how brilliant this game is. It is, as far as puzzle games go, it is just so different and unique and clever. I can't even imagine the brain that makes half of these levels. So then when you solve them, you're like, I'm the smartest person that's ever lived. Even if you have to go in and look up online how to do it, because the game beats you. This game is so clever. I think everyone should play it because it's one of those games that will just hold a special place in your heart because it's so fascinating to play.
The best
It's
games.
hard. It's so hard. It gets hard. It starts off and you're like, I can do this. Oh, I got this. I'm so smart. And then you get to a level and you're like, this is literally impossible. There's no way to win this. And then you look it up and it was really easy all along. And then you feel like the biggest idiot that's ever lived. What am I doing playing this? I am such an idiot. How did I not figure this out? It's so simple. Like, that's how brain breaking this game is. I love it. So kudos to those guys.
Yeah, so way to go and congrats.
Kudos.
All right, kudos is our positivity segment. We like to give a shout out to something cool. Peterson has our kudos for this week. Peterson, what are you loving right now?
So I had a new experience this week. I went. Some friends of ours invited us to go play pickleball, and I know one of our other co-hosts, Aaron, is a big pickleball fan. Someone invited us, and we said, "Sure, why not?" If you're unfamiliar with pickleball, it's the latest craze among the middle-aged adults, because it is like tennis. It's like baby tennis or ping pong plus. You're on a small court you've got a paddle that is more like a ping pong paddle than it is a tennis racket. It's just a large paddle, and you're playing which is pretty much a wiffle ball. And you just play, and it's similar rules to tennis. It plays similar. So if you've ever played, tennis is much harder. I always say tennis is one of the hardest sports I've ever just tried to jump in and play. Pickleball is not that hard though. It's as friendly as ping pong is to jump into. So you're just on the court. You're playing this game, and it's honestly not that bad to jump into. We got in. My wife and I played. We played doubles, which is better for me. I have a bad knee and have a hard time like moving around. And playing doubles was perfect in this game because the court's small enough. I didn't have to do tons of sprinting. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so, yeah, it was great. It was a great workout. I will say, if you have a park with pickleball courts in your area, which you probably do, it's really big right now. They're packed. They're always packed. The court, the place we were at had 16 courts, and often there's a wait. People will just wait, and you're supposed to after your game's over, you're supposed to rotate off, and people will jump in. It's crazy. But it's a ton of fun.
Courts here in Cottonwood Heights, there's a ton of courts.
Yeah, there's always a bunch because they take up way less space than like a tennis court does, right? And tennis is so specific. You can't just jump in and be like, "Hey, I've never played tennis before. Let's play it," because you'll suck and you'll get frustrated. But pickleball is much more user friendly. I saw a lot of people out there, probably in their 50s, playing. I saw, young. There was no young people. It was all like 30 plus. I don't know why it's just hit this niche of like middle age, right? But it's fantastic.
Yeah, everyone who's got bad knees.
You got bad knee, but you like playing sports. Pickleball is the game for you.
It's pickleball.
Yeah,
dude, that's tight.
The equipment's not expensive. It was a fun date night that we had. So yeah, I had a great time. I'm definitely going to go play again. I was really sore because I haven't played a racket sport in a long time. And so just doing that for a couple hours, swinging at that ball, is nice to use some muscles that I haven't used in a long time. So if you're looking for anything to do with on a good date night, go grab some pickleball rackets or I don't know, paddles. I don't even know what they're called.
Paddles. I believe they're paddles.
Yeah, pickleball
Pickle
paddles. By the way, the stupidest name. Who named
It has
this?
nothing to do with pickles, people.
There's
This
no pickles
is
involved,
Not
at least as
pickle
far as I
related
was aware.
whatsoever. You don't have to like start the match by flipping a pickle or anything. Like you do not have to like pickles, eat pickles. There's no
Are you a
pickles for the
pickle
winner
fan?
or loser.
Do you like pickles?
No.
Do you like tennis? Come on in, enjoy pickleball. You don't
And
hit
it's not
pickles
something
that
clever
you could.
with cucumbers or anything. It's just like nothing. It's just called pickleball.
Yeah, obviously an American named it because we just like to name our sports nonsense names like football, and soccer.
Right. Soccer.
So pickleball,
Exactly.
go play it. It's a lot of fun.
Tight.
Do you want me to do my next one, or do you want me to save it?
Do you want to do your next one?
Let's do it. We've got a minute.
Do it.
Okay.
Do it.
I saw on what was it on? I think it was on Amazon Prime Video. They had a movie that I've seen recommended loads of times. Have never watched it because it just didn't seem interesting to me. So I watched the 1985
How
movie.
could that not seem interesting to you?
Look, okay, I watched
your
Clue.
oldest favorite game, and this movie was not interesting to you.
So that's why I watched it. My oldest son loves Clue. Here's the thing. I hate the game. I think the board game is so dumb. It's not fun.
Oh, yeah. I was actually pretty surprised that you weren't shaming your son for picking it as his favorite board game when you guys have like a literal room full of them.
Yeah. I mean, I give him a little bit of a hard time, but not too bad. But yeah, so I was like, hey, Graham, it's rated PG. I was like, hey, Graham, let's watch Clue, because he was real bored, and I was like, we got time. So I turned it on. It's a 1985 movie, so it visually it looks a little older, but it's honestly not that bad because they're wearing clothes, pre 1985, so it honestly wasn't that bad. It kind of fit, and it has a. Let's see. There's a couple people in the cast you'll recognize. What's his face? What's his name? JD.
Oh,
the butler. What's his name? I know it's gonna drive me crazy.
If you hadn't asked me just now, I would have been able to tell you.
You would have told me immediately. I'm looking it up. So, anyways,
Tim Curry.
Tim Curry. Yes, freaking Tim Curry.
Bam, got it. And I didn't look that up, people. I know you don't have any reason to believe me, but I promise.
And Doc from Back to the Future. I don't even know that actor's name, but he's in it. But this movie is fantastic. It is truly
So good.
fantastic to watch. I watched it for the first time, loved it. It is just full of fun. It's goofy. It is over the top, and it's supposed to be. You can tell it's supposed to be. It's not taking itself seriously. And they give you 3 endings. They're like, oh, the movie ends, and they're like, here's what could have
and they
happened.
all make sense, which is so fun that it's made that well that any of these, it's a murder. I don't know if you reveal this, but it's a murder mystery, just like the board game, and the characters are all, it's a whodunit. Dude, it was an instant classic back then. It's definitely a classic now.
By the way, they pay so much homage to the board game, like more than the game deserves, but it is like the weapons, the characters, there's all the rooms, there's the hidden passageways. Like, they pay so much homage to the board game. Dude, I mean, really, I wouldn't think you could make a very good movie and keep it that close to the game itself. And they did, and it was so good. It was fun. The kids loved it, which is surprising because they don't love a lot of movies, like older movies, when I turn them on.
Older movies.
There was like, this movie looks like crap. And so, but they loved it. My 2 oldest, they sat down and they watched it. They super enjoyed it. I enjoyed it to the point where I've thought about it a couple times since I've watched it, which is always a good sign, right? If you think about a movie later on. So Clue, The 1985 version, I think there's a newer one that doesn't look as good. It had like teenagers or something in it. Didn't look good.
Wait a second.
Dude, 2014, I think it is. Let's see.
Oh my god, that.
Yeah, they did like a 2014.
No.
What is it? Clue? A movie mystery adventure? I don't know what this is. Anyway, I watched the 1985 one. Absolutely watch it.
Where did you watch it? Is it streaming somewhere?
Prime. I watched it on Prime Video. So if you have Amazon Prime, you've
the
got
latest I think is that they're still trying to find a director for the Clue movie. So they have a remake that's been in development for like 2011 since 2011.
Oh wow.
But I hadn't seen anyway. I freaking love Clue. I just watch it every once in a while. Just like it's good to have on. It's just a background movie if you've seen it enough. It's just fun.
Yep. Absolutely agree.
Cool. So you ready to move on?
Let's do it.
Oh my god, the first impression rose.
All right. So I have been playing a trillion new games. Just anything on Game Pass, anything that's free on EGS. I'm downloading anything that's free. Guys, it's 2020. We're like, I don't know, in the first quarter of the quarantine, and I'm really feeling like I might get through my entire Steam backlog and every single backlog game I have in my whole library. No, I'm not going to beat every game, but I'm going to fucking play every single game I own. I swear to God. So we're going to be doing a ton of first impression roses because, look, man, if a game's not going to grip me, that's okay because I'm just going to play every freaking game that's ever been made in the next year. That's my goal. That's my life. So I've got a first impression rose this week for Watch Dogs 2. I downloaded Watch Dogs 2 this weekend and played it for like 10-15 hours. It was nice. I kind of cut my teeth on open world video games, like city-based video games. Like that was my GTA 3, GTA San Andreas, Saints Row, like all these, even Mafia, the original Mafia games. Like I was always into these city-based open world games. I always loved them. And so it's always fun to slip back into one and just kind of lose myself. And I also feel like I have a pretty good breadth of these things, of like a spread of different ones I've played, and I know pretty quickly if I'm gonna like it. Guys, Watch Dogs 2, which came out in 2016, is amazing. I apologize for not having played this sooner. The setting is in an alternate reality, more or less. I think it's like 2016. It's like the same time, but there was like a divergent timeline in the early 2000s in which tech companies in Silicon Valley convinced, originally in Watch Dogs 1, the city of Chicago to basically hand over all of its data, all of its cameras, its entire network, including all of its information on its residents, to like a giant Uber system that was supposed to keep everyone safe by, I don't know, being evil. Whatever Google's going to try to sell us in 2 years, it's that.
Yeah. What Facebook has been trying for years.
I mean, they literally tried to pull this shit in Utah in having all these different local municipalities giving all their camera data and syncing that up with viral tweets. And the idea was that this tech startup here in Utah was going to predict shootings and predict events and like dispatch police faster than people could call 911. But it basically was just like a massive invasion of privacy, which is what this game was predicated on. So basically it's a current game based in reality, not at all fictional. But dude, it's so easy to get sucked into this. It's a lot of the same buttons that you know from like Grand Theft Auto. Like it's going to be Y or triangle to steal a car, for example, like every freaking, or to steal a horse in Red Dead. Like it's just the same gameplay. What's really notable and what's different in Watch Dogs 2 that I absolutely loved is that you as a hacker have basically a hacking device. It's your phone, you can hack anything and anyone because they're all tapped into this system and they're all on the same network. You get a backdoor to it and you can just hack into everything. This is security doors, cars. You could hack a parked car and make it drive off. You can hack a driving car on the freeway and make it turn right and swerve into a cop. You can hack a crane and lower the thing, like lower the bucket on somebody to kill them. Or you can, there's scissor lifts, like autonomous scissor lifts that you can just drive around and like use to get on top of different buildings.
Nice.
You can drive. So like I was driving away from a cop car that was chasing me. I end up getting chased by a lot of cops. It's because of all the crime I'm doing, guys. I do so much crime.
You don't sound like a good guy per se.
No, I wouldn't say I'm like the best individual.
You're like a good bad guy.
So I'm driving away from these cops as a good bad guy. And you tell me after this story, I see a hacking opportunity in front of me. And what's really cool is the hacking is very intuitive and it's non-disruptive. Like I can be driving away from cops in an intense cop chase and still be able to hack what I want, when I want, and how I want. And so like that feels really cool. Like I said, like I can swerve a random truck in front of the cops if I hack it right. And so in this one instance, I was driving over something and I was like, ooh, let's just hack it and set up a trap. I didn't know what it was. And then as I'm driving away, the cop goes over this trap and I hear this huge boom that like rattles my controller. So I look in my rear view and I had rigged a gas main to explode when the cop drove over it.
Okay.
Not a
good guy.
Depth of things. I'm a great guy. What are you talking about? The depth of things that you can do in this game is so amazing. Because you can hack all these things. But what's really dope in the last thing I'll say about the hacking that I loved was that I learned really early on is that you can do this like chained hacking thing. So you hack a camera, right? And then you can look around with the camera. Well, if you can see another camera with that camera, then you can hack that camera from that camera. And essentially you can bounce around a whole building and like set up traps for people and find the route you want to go and look for certain things you're trying to hack and find out who's a threat and make a distraction in this room so everyone goes to it and you can run past it. It is a game for the first time ever that the stealth is actually fun for me. Like I don't just want to pull out an Uzi and start fucking gunning people down because I'm frustrated. Like it is a stealth game that really has finally, for me, I get tons of people love stealth games, but for me, it finally got me where it's just like, here's 5 trillion different options or routes that you can take. And it's not a prescribed, because you played Last of Us, Peterson. You know, the stealth in that game is all predefined. Like you have to go behind
pretty much where you need to go.
And you had the exact same experience that another million gamers had. It was the exact same route in stealth. And there is merit to that, and it's engaging, and it helps drive a story. But in this, the variables available are just so vast. It's just super fun. You also got, I haven't even get, like, there's so much else. There's a drone. You have a drone you can fly, and it is seamless and as smooth as I assume flying these real drones looks. You can fly your drone around and then like hack into a camera and then jump back into your drone, which is just floating there. You have an RC car that lets you like go into these vents and stuff, so you can play Die Hard with your RC car. The skill tree just basically lets you like hack more things, and it opens up more stuff. But get this, instead of just being a skill tree that unlocks with experience points, you have to go find this data in the real world and then to like unlock the point on the skill tree that you can then unlock with experience. Which means like, and so like I pull up my map and I'm like, oh, I want the extra high jump for my drone or for my RC car because it can hop, and so I want it to be able to hop a lot higher. And it's like, you don't have the data or the intel for this, but here is where on the map you can go to find it. And it's like a scavenger hunt. It's just so cool. Like, and despite all of the hacking and all of the focus on the hacking aspect of the gameplay, The gunplay is awesome. Like the
Well, it's
gunfights are awesome.
Ubisoft.
Sometimes
They know how to do it.
Yeah. Exactly. Like it just like, do you remember the very first time you started shooting people in Far Cry 5? And you're like,
Yep.
whoa, fuck, this is actually really good.
Especially
That's how
since
this
I'd been
felt.
playing a lot of PUBG at that time.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah,
oh, man, this feels smooth.
When you come from a multiplayer, because I've just been playing multiplayer shooters, and I'm coming from that, and I'm like, whoa, dang, this is real nice. I don't die when I get shot in the head one time. So, the gunplay is so satisfying. And then there's also a multiplayer aspect to it, which is fantastic because there's a ton of co-op missions, and they're online co-op missions. But it's like they know me. They know how introverted I am playing online with strangers, that I'm like, no, I just don't want to queue up with people. And so they'll just drop a guy in my game. Like I'll be running a mission and it's kind of hard, and I've done it 2 or 3 times. And then all of a sudden it's like, so-and-so's here to help. And then they help me run the mission and they're gone. And I was like, that's weird. But for me, I experienced the same thing. I'm driving through the world. I see a little pop-up. It's like so-and-so, which by the way, these are all random. These so-and-sos are just random people playing this game 4 years later like me. It's like so-and-so's doing a mission. Do you want to help them? And if I say yes, I'll just jump into their mission. It's so nice because I can just do those types of things, jump in and out. And then like the last part of the multiplayer that's so cool is that there are this is like Forza Horizon, in that like there are dynamic things that pop up. So I might be having a police rampage and I have half the city's cops chasing me and I'm shooting down helicopters. Guess who's going to show up in my game? Somebody that's got a bounty on me. So unlike Red Dead, when it's somebody that's already in the server that's playing with me, it's just some random person that drops in with a bounty. So I was on this crazy police massacre where I was just shooting and running from the FBI and like freaking out. And all of a sudden I got hit by a Prius. Some guy hits me in a fucking Prius and I stand up like, that's aggressive. Why did someone do that? I thinking it was a civilian or like an NPC. And I see the little person's name and they're just sitting in the car, like shocked. And so I already had my AK-47 out. And so they just, were added to my list of bodies. And then I got a huge reward because I'd killed this bounty guy that had come hunting for me. And I just went on killing cops. And I have the same opportunities. I've hunted people down that are in like a cop war too. And it's just, so it feels live. Cool. It feels vibrant. And it feels like when you have these missions, whereas you're working in a hacker collective and everyone's kind of anonymous and you're all fighting the Supercorp, the idea that just some random hacker shows up in your mission, you run the mission, and then he disappears and you never hear from him again. Dude, it sucks you in. It's so immersive for this whole hacker thing, which brings me to the story, which is basically kind of, I've already gone over it. But the story is fun because there's so many different aspects and elements to the city. It's not just me versus the Google company and there's cops thrown into the mix. There's gangs throughout the city, like multiple gangs, and they fight each other whether or not you're involved. And then there's cops, there's the FBI, there's all these different factions. There's the security for all these tech firms. And the security guards, I just like killing those guys because I just don't feel bad about it. So I don't know. It's just, this is a hell of a first impression, Rose. But I really love. But I felt like I couldn't call this a review because, like I said, I'm only 15 hours in. But as Peterson pointed out last night, with an open world game, you kind of know what you're getting after the first 10 hours. Like,
right, you know what it is.
Even with Assassin's Creed, you have an idea of the unlockables that are coming up. And so you're like, yeah, I'll probably unlock, like you've seen your whole skill tree. And I've gone through my whole skill tree. I know like there's other cool things I'll hack. And I'm sure there's a lot of cool set pieces. Like the introductory mission is pretty hard, but also like so cool. There's this scene where you like hack into a server farm and you're like propping yourself up inside of like one of these server towers, and it's like 120 degrees, and you're like pushing your feet against the one wall and your back against the other while you work on your laptop on your lap, and you're like 30 feet in the air. It's so cool. It's just like the game is slick. It's very Ubisoft. It's just dripping with with the good old Ubisoft before we realized that they were a scum company. So yeah,
Scumpany.
and that is my Scumpany. I keep forgetting that we have a name for him. But look, man, I've got to say, I want to say, and I know this kind of breaks tradition, but I have so much love in my heart and so much love to give that I feel like sometimes breaking tradition is the proper tradition. And so tonight, I would like to officially give out a second first impression rose.
Well, it is your journey. You need to follow your heart and do what you think is right. So that being said, JD, Games, second first impression rose.
I mean, it cleaves my heart asunder to have to do this and to have to split my love between two games, but you gotta do what you gotta do. And so I want to give my second first impression rose of the evening to Ape Out.
Oh my god, the first impression rose.
Ape Out is this little indie title that came out a couple years ago, right? Or was it last year? It's old.
It's been a couple
Is it
years,
old?
I think. I honestly, I know we joke about this.
2019.
I cannot remember time anymore. 2019.
I went through my camera roll the other day and I was
almost
like,
2
oh my
years.
gosh. So 2019 is like 15 years ago. So Ape Out is this indie game. It's on Game Pass, which is why I picked it up, because it was free. So I was like, fuck yeah, let's do it. And it's a top-down, like Peterson compared it to Carry On. It's a top-down game in which you control a gorilla escaping from a research facility.
Yep.
And you basically can push people, and the scientists or the security guards, if you push them into a wall, they explode, or you can
you're
grab
strong. You're
them.
a gorilla.
You're a gorilla. I mean, come on, you're 1,800 pounds. Or you can grab them, and they instinctively, within like the first second or two, when you grab them, they shoot their gun. And so basically, if you grab them and time it just right, you can use them to shoot one of their friends, and then you can throw them against a wall, throw them against each other. Which is like pretty
smear.
funny. And they just turn into smears. You can pick up like their arm and throw the arm again. It's a bit over the top, but it's all very monochromatic and artsy fartsy.
Mm-hmm.
It's got that like weird screen effect you might see in an old 1920s film, where you can see the actual like scratches and damage on the film print itself. So it's got that kind of vibe to it. And then the music, in fact, is based on your actions. So when I push a guy against a wall, it'll be like a cymbal, or no, it'll be like a certain drum beat. But if I shove a guy into another guy, it'll be like a cymbal crash noise. So it ends up being like, as I'm fighting my way through, the game feels like a cool jazz kind of vibe.
Because it's
with
like you're running and so
the-
it's like ba-doom, doop, doop, ba-doom, ba-doom, doop, doop, ba-doom, 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 ba-doom,
Yeah.
ba-doom. And then you throw
Yeah,
something
yeah.
that's like, pew,
Pow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's you. It sounds exactly like Peterson. Like, I won't even make fun of you. That was spot on. That's exactly what it
That's
sounds
what it
like.
sounds
So, basically, we just played a clip from the game. So I mean, it's an indie game and it's kind of short, and I know it's kind of short, and so I'm really savoring it. It feels like I'm playing through someone's beloved art project. Like, it really does feel like something that someone took a lot of care and put a lot of like thought into the details, because any one of these aspects you could take out of the game and it would still be pretty fun. You could take out the music, it'd be fun. You could take out the weird film effect, it would be fun. You could even take out the blood and the violence and the jokiness, and it'd still be pretty fun. But having it all together makes for like an awesome game. There's different characters, there's just different map styles. I've only played like two of them, the first two levels, or not levels, but the first two boards, I guess. So far,
Yeah.
I'm on the high rise, so now I'm throwing people out of buildings, which is super funny, and they like splatter on the street below. But yeah, my first impression is that this game's awesome for a Game Pass game. If you guys have Game Pass, no brainer. At least download it and play it for an hour. It's funny for some laughs. If you're like me, you might find that you get more than a couple hours out of it because it's super fun. So check out Ape Out on Game Pass. And that means we've got a shit ton more reviews. So let's do it right now.
Hey, dude, you know what a rundown is?
Use it in a sentence.
Can you get this rundown for me?
Try another sentence.
This rundown better be really good.
I don't know, but it sounds like the rundown's really important.
All right, as per Peterson's request, we are now calling all reviews on this podcast rundowns.
It's because I listened to the rundown clip that we have on the soundboard, and I was like, we got to use this. How can we use this? It's like, duh. We'll just give a rundown of every game.
No brainer.
What's a rundown?
Here's the thing, like I don't know, but it sounds really important. So Peterson, why don't you give us your rundown of Shadowrun Dragonfall, which I didn't even know you were playing.
Yeah, so this was an Epic Game Store freebie that I picked up. And I don't pick up all of them. You could just like pad the crap out of your game library by adding tons of games. And actually, there's been a few that I've regretted not picking up, so I should just grab them all, but I don't. But this is one that I knew I would be interested in. Shadowrun is a series. It's essentially the XCOM games, right? It's the it's the turn-based, tactical type of game. Your guys shooting guns in a kind of futuristic setting, and I think this game also adds in some of those like fantasy elements. So it takes place on Earth in the future, but all of a sudden, and I didn't really get from the story. I'm sure there's some games before that I haven't played, but at some point, elves and dwarves and trolls and magic showed up. And so that's like a part of the world now. And in this game, it's called Dragonfall because there was a dragon at some point that showed up and was destroying everything, and some guy took it out. Well, you stumble upon some rumors that it's not gone, so you're chasing it down. But it actually, when you were describing Watch Dogs, it feels similar-ish, but like if Watch Dogs progressed another 50 years into that world, like everything is crappy and like broken down, and the world is run by there was no semblance of like government or police anymore. It was
cool,
run by like gangs and companies and corporations who are just gangs themselves. And you are part of a group. You're called of people that are called shadows. You take like contracts to steal stuff. You're like, the Ocean's crew. So you feel like you're part of a crew, right? And you're planning a heist, and you're like, hey, we got to go break into this mansion and steal this thing.
You son of a bitch, I'm in.
For this guy, yeah. And so that part is actually pretty cool because everything's bad. There are no like, you don't run into anyone that's like, I'm a good guy. Everyone's shady. Everyone's spying on everybody. Everyone's been bought by somebody or they're part of some gang. So everyone's shady in the world. But it plays similar how you'd play an XCOM game. It's a cover-based tactical shooter game. Some of the guys are using rifles. Some are using pistols and shotguns. I'll say the one thing that has been noticeably different is because you do have the ammo mechanic. So if you run out of ammo, you need to spend an action to refill your gun. Mm-hmm. But the guys can carry multiple guns and multiple guns of the same type. So I have, my main character carries 2 ARs with her, and so that's a little bit different. But then you've got your magical characters, but there's also some of you are hackers, and so there's this hacking mechanic where you can go break into security systems, but people guard their security systems. So when you break into a security system, it has a like a firewall. It has this type of system that you have to get past. It has a guards, quite literally guards in it. So you break in, and then your like ethereal self is in there, and it's your mind. your mind is in there, and you need to go find this node to like break into it. But there are like these guards, and they're kind of like sentinel machine looking things that are protecting the whatever you're trying to hack, right? And so, and sometimes, depending on who you're hacking, sometimes they're really weak, sometimes they're very strong. But you can do that like mid battle, go hack something, and
cool.
and make the robots help you or whatever. You can do different stuff. But yeah, and it's if you die in that, then your character takes some major damage or might die depending on how strong the security was. And so it's an interesting premise and actually very well executed. I haven't like experienced any bugs. The story's interesting. It's not original. That's what I'll say. It's not original. So it's one of those games where if I feel the itch to play a tactical shooter, I'm like, oh, sweet, I've got a new one, which is why I downloaded it. I felt that itch, and I'm playing it, and it's scratching that itch, right? The same itch that I got from playing XCOM, the same itch I got from playing Mario and Rabbids. It's the same thing, just tiny bit different, but very good, very well executed. It didn't. It doesn't feel clunky, and so I've actually really enjoyed the game. I'm probably 10 to 15 hours in. I've kind of unlocked all of the systems that are in the game. There's nothing new besides story. And so a lot of these games, you kind of unlock all your weapons and your abilities and characters right pretty early on, because they want you to level those guys up. They want you to, get them and level them up because you got to get them all beefed up for the later fights. And so then it's just story and battles and story and battles. And the battles are sometimes a little bit different. There'll be a battle where, reinforcements are coming in or whatnot. But it's very good. So this is a game I picked up for free. Absolutely worth a free pickup, or I would say on sale. It's not better than XCOM. I never said it was better than an iPod.
How is this better than XCOM?
I never said it was better than XCOM.
Seriously?
Seriously,
Shadowrun Dragonfall. How is this better than XCOM?
What if we just did that for every game? Okay, cool. So it's not better. So I wouldn't buy it full price. I would buy it on sale, or it's a free pickup on EGS if they ever put it up again. I don't know if they've had any repeats that I've seen yet. But fantastic game. I'm loving it. I'll continue to play it. I'll probably beat it. It's one of those games that when I'm in the mood, I jump in, I play, and I'll probably beat it, and I'll enjoy it throughout. I haven't had any moments where I'm sick of the game or frustrated with the game or, no longer enjoying it. It scratches that itch, and it's absolutely worth playing. So that's called Shadowrun Dragonfall. And there's a whole bunch of Shadowrun games. Like they were all available on EGS, and so I picked up a bunch of them. So I'm sure I'll play another one at some point.
Yeah, I think I actually picked one of these up on EGS. I'm going to take a look now, but I think now that you're talking about it, and so this is a game that like you can take slow, right?
Yeah,
it's turn-based, right?
Yep, it's turn-based. So it's one while I'm working from home. Like if I'm in a meeting, I'll play it, and then it'll sit there and wait for you, right? And so
yes, those are my jam lately.
Those are so good when you're working, right? Because you can just click over. I'm going to take a couple turns real quick, and then you move. Then you focus back on whatever I was working on, or I jump back into the meeting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I also picked up Shadowrun Hong Kong and Shadowrun Returns.
Tight.
Oh, this is the game where I sent you a screenshot because there's a recurring character that you interact with. She looks like Danny. Every time I see her, I'm like,
you
that's
showed
Danny.
me this character. It does look exactly like Danny.
It's really funny.
So I have a rundown for another new game that I played a couple weeks back. It was new. It was brand new,
Brand new.
hot off the presses. I believe I played this on release on the day that it came out. Crusader Kings 3. This is the empire building simulator. Basically, to picture the game. Visualize a map of the known world in the 1400s. So you had Europe, Africa, and Asia, and all of the different local, I guess, countries that were, small kingdoms, small lordships. And the purpose of this game is to unify your kingdom and hold it and manage a dynasty, essentially. So like you die and it's not over. Whoever is next in the line takes over at that point, and then you are now playing as that person. That could be your 3-year-old daughter, honestly. And now you have to make moves to set her up for success, or I don't know. This is something that anyway, it's the same thing as Crusader Kings 2 and 1 that people will be familiar with. What was different for me is I played Crusader Kings 2 and could not get into it. The biggest thing in this game that was just stand out is the tutorial and the teaching section of the game. Honestly, an absolute masterclass. And I think they learned from Crusader Kings 2 being this game that people were over the moon with and obsessed with. And me, as someone that plays a shit ton of games, like I play so many games, and I have a ton of experience with all these different types of games, and I could not get it.
Dude, I was the same way with Crusader Kings 2 because Chase was so into it. I was like, all right, I'm going to play it. Could not figure it out. Like, I didn't know what I was doing or supposed to be doing or doing wrong. I was like, I don't get it. I don't get what I'm doing.
I got it exclusively to play the Game of Thrones mod, and I was like, well, obviously I have to learn how to play the base game before I do the mod, because the mod's not going to have tutorials, and I could never get past that.
Same.
In the main game, and I had a strong motivator. That was back when Game of Thrones was good. So, yeah, dude, here's something that blew my mind. So there are tooltips, and they're hover tooltips. So I hover a tooltip, and it does this little thing where the text, if I'm looking at if I'm looking at something, if I'm reading anything anywhere in the game, because there are a billion menus, right? So there's menus for your character, there's menus for another character. Every single person in this game has their own little menu and screen. With their motivations, with their skill sets, with what they're good at, what they're bad at, if they're stupid, if they're smart, if they're conniving or not. You have different menus for sending tribute, for schmoozing the Pope, for your religion, for all this different shit. You have so many menus. And so instead of trying to explain it all at once, they teach you how to fish. They basically, if you see in any of these menus, if there's a word, so say the word is like fervor, and that's like a measure. I don't know if this is real. I'm just making this up. Fervor is a measure of like your religiosity. And so fervor the word itself might be blue. And so you hover your mouse over that blue word, and then the word fills up, like that blue fills up with like a slightly different blue. So it's really subtle, and and then once it fills up all the way, it opens a tooltip on fervor, and that tooltip's now like locked. And so if I go hover, and then if there's an explanation in that, and say the word religion is now in blue in that, I can hover that, and it'll open another tooltip on religion. So as a goof, because I was just curious, I opened up so many tooltips. I was trying to break my game. I was trying to load so many tooltips in it that it would crash the game, and I couldn't. I had like 100 tooltips that were all just nested within each other. And so it's this game that, like I said, is a masterclass in teaching people how to play it. And so I would say it's no less complicated than Crusader Kings 2, but I was up and running with this game in 30 minutes.
Nice.
Peterson, it's mind-blowing. You have to try this because, and I think it's on Game Pass, so you have to try it because it's absolutely fascinating that it does this, that they have taken the complexity and challenge of Crusader Kings 2 and just made it so simplistic in this game. So a couple thoughts on this. The world is so big, it's kind of intimidating. Honestly, the game is so huge and broad, it's pretty intimidating. It's not like you might think, I don't know, maybe I haven't played because I didn't really play Civ that much. Is this similar to Civ, Peterson?
No, because this is more. This is like all of the decision making. If Civ was just making decisions instead of like doing something, that's kind of what this is. This is just like the decision piece of it. And so you're just sitting there and making the decisions for your empire,
and then watching
or whatever.
Them play out.
Yep.
Yeah. And so you'll do a bunch of things and then hit play, and time will advance by a couple years, and then something will pop up, and you'll make some more decisions based around that event that happened. Yeah. Like, your wife died of dysentery or whatever. So in my first playthrough, I took over all of Ireland slowly and meticulously. Some of it by war, some of it through pressure, some of it by keeping... And you have to keep like your vassals happy, because otherwise you're trying to expand your empire at the same time you're trying to like tamp down rebellions within your borders. So I could see that if this were my type of game, it would definitely suck a million years of my life. Unfortunately, it's just a tad too slow, and it's a lot of reading, maybe too much reading for me. The gameplay mechanics, there's not really a gameplay mechanic. It's just clicking things, and making decisions and then watching them play out. It's basically the most powerful role play simulator ever made. And you guys know I like playing these games. Go on.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's absolutely a simulation game to the extreme, right? Like you said, because simulation games usually have like a lot of things happening and reading to do. But this is like all of that. It's like every simulation game you've played, whenever they present to you a problem and you have to make a decision, that's this. They just took that and made that the core of their game instead of like an event in the game.
Yeah, and so what was interesting that I kind of learned about that, because it is such a heavy simulator game, is that you guys know I like role-playing when I play games, just in my head, just like when I'm playing Subnautica or Frostpunk. But ultimately, I'm doing that because the game is keeping me engaged. The gameplay itself has me engaged. So in Frostpunk, the gameplay was keeping me engaged, and then my mind got to wander and explore the world of the game. But in this, it's just there. It's just, that's all it is role-playing. And it's just not interesting enough. The gameplay, the core gameplay itself is not interesting enough to keep me there. This is going to a Renaissance fair and having sword fights versus going to a Renaissance fair and like reciting poetry and like sitting and watching a puppet show. Like, fucking cool. Like, I can feel like I'm at a medieval puppet show, but at the end of the day, I'm watching a fucking puppet show. And that's boring to me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like, that alone does not keep me at the Renaissance fair. Give me some like battle reenactments and we'll hit each other with swords. But there's none of that in this game. So ultimately, my rundown on this is, if you know, you know. If you're going to love this game, you're going to love this game, and you already know it. It is on Game Pass right now, so it'd be worth looking into it's just out of rank curiosity. If you like,
you might this might not sound interesting to you, and you might love it. You might love it.
This might just hit you super hard. I'm a history buff and a history dork, so that aspect of it I really liked. Not to say that I, have a particular knowledge of this area of history, because I don't, but I do appreciate and respect the history that they do try to put in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this might scratch an itch. It's on Game Pass, and we have to pitch Game Pass once a week. So there it is.
This is our fourth. For
Peterson, let's save this. I know. Let's save this next one and just go straight to dice.
Okay.
Dice, dice, dice. of Destiny.
All right. To close us out, we've got Dice of Destiny. This is a fun little game we play at the end of every episode. We roll a 20-sided dice with 20 different game genres assigned to it. We roll a 6-sided dice to see how much money we can spend on that game. And then finally, we roll a dice to see who has to find a game for that price in that genre, pick it, play it, review it. Peterson rolled... What did you roll? Casual?
I rolled a casual game, and I swear this is unintentional, but I feel like we keep falling into themes this episode. First, it was like the hacking stuff with you and Watch Dogs, and then with Shadowrun. And now I have picked a simulation game. And so casual was hard. And I didn't think it would be that hard because there's a lot of good casual games. But a lot of the popular ones right now I've played already, and so it was hard for me to find a good one to play for Dice of Destiny. Plus the casual, I think we talked about this in Discord, but when you like browse casual on Steam, it is like all hentai games. It is like wading through the list of hentai games. And so
did you click on casual or
Casual.
Oh, the words were wiggling like casual, like that. So maybe
like wavy and they were red?
like crimson. Yeah, I clicked on that one. That's my fault. My mistake. I clicked on the casual genre. But no, I found one. I had seen this a few times and someone recommended it. I want to give that person kudos, so I'll get to it. But someone recommended Game Dev Tycoon, which is it's classic tycoon type of game where you start off with nothing and you work your way up. Oh, it was Parzival on Discord, where you work your way up. But this one starts, you're a game developer in your garage, one dude, and in the 80s, and it follows the cycle of game development that has existed since the 80s. Nintendo will come out. It'll start with computer and the Commodore, and Nintendo comes out, and then Sega shows up, and it of course they don't name them the same thing, so it's like Nivtendo. And
so clever.
It's the VES instead of the NES, and they're all like that. It's the M box, not the Xbox, and the Vonnie Play System instead of Sony PlayStation. So they just, but I think what they're getting at is they want you to know exactly where you're at in the timeline of video games, and they do that really well. They follow it. They follow you, so you know what's going to happen. That's like one of the things, you kind of know what's going to happen. But the purpose of the game is you're supposed to make a video game and make choices about the game. You make your choices, and then you see if it works, and then see if people buy it, and you make money. Then you can upgrade your studio and make better games and stuff. So I'll do a full review of this next week. I've played through already a full cycle of this game. And I'm playing more still. So let that tell you what it will. But yeah, so it's Game Dev Tycoon. I'm excited to give a full review next week. And it is a tiny little indie studio who's making this game. So absolutely fantastic. I'm excited to talk about it.
Dope. Okay, well, that is it for us this week. To play us out, we have some tunes from Ape Out, which you basically already heard from Peterson doing his great ad-lib.
This is me doing it right now. What you're hearing is
This is
me.
Peterson. We're just replaying that track from earlier where he was like, this is what the music sounds like. This is JD logging off.
This is Peterson going AFK.
Predictions! Oh, yeah.
Blizzconline.
BlizzConline? Blizz Online? I don't know. Whatever you guys want to call it.
Now we're going to be talking about BlizzCon 2020, but I guess I shouldn't call it BlizzCon. I should call it BlizzConline. Yes, that's the name of it. BlizzConline.
For other news, we got official confirmation of Blizzconline. All one word.
It's like a Mealy apple.